I just finished crocheting Austin the Astronaut with Paintbox Simply DK, and I'm going to be sharing all of my thoughts and opinions about this yarn to help you decide if this is the perfect yarn for your next amigurumi project. Hi, I'm Elise from EliseRoseCrochet.com, and I have been on the hunt for the perfect amigurumi yarn for the past couple of years. And each time I test out a new yarn, I share about it here on my YouTube channel. And this week is going to be all about Paintbox Simply DK. I got a lot of thoughts about it. I've got a lot of opinions about it, and I'm going to share it with you. For crochet enthusiasts and amigurumi aficionados, choosing the right yarn can be just as important as the pattern itself. The texture, color, and overall quality of the yarn can significantly impact the look and feel of your adorable creations. Making crochet toys is a great way to test a new yarn because you're going to learn the strength of the yarn, the stitch definition, how the yarn feels in your hands, and how the finished project looks. Make sure to leave your favorite yarn in the comment section below because I'm always on the hunt and I will not quit looking for that perfect amigurumi yarn until I find it, and it just may be the one that you love, so please leave them in the comment section below. The very talented May from Amigurumi just came out with a brand new pattern book called Amigurumi People, and I just had to make one for myself. In Amigurumi People, you're going to find 16 of the cutest characters. You'll find Sleepy Time Sophie, Helena the Doctor, Ollie the Firefighter, Austin the Astronaut and Rocket, Megan the Exchange Student, Anna the Ballerina, Grandma and Grandpa, Best Friends, Mommy and Twins, Zara the Zookeeper and Elephant, Little Scotty, and Samantha the Big Sister. One of the best parts of this book is that each one of the patterns has been designed to help you improve your amigurumi skills. To make your amigurumi journey much more enjoyable, we've packed the pages with useful techniques on how to crochet hair that curls a certain way and whip up colorful crochet clothes and accessories to match. Each pattern comes with complete step-by-step instructions so you can sit back and focus on the fun parts. Each one of the patterns in Amigurumi People is so adorable, and I had such a hard time choosing which project to make. Ultimately, I decided that I wanted to make Austin the Astronaut, and one reason I chose him was because there are so many different colors going on with little Austin here, and I find that that's a really great way to see how the yarn works with all of the different colors. How do they look all together? That is something that's really important to me as I am searching for the perfect amigurumi yarn, is to see how all of these colors look together. I also want to see how each of the colors feel, because have you ever noticed when you have been crocheting with a yarn and say you're using a lighter color, maybe you're using even the white color, and you notice the thickness of the yarn, and then you choose a different color of the same brand and it's a much darker color, and you're working with it and you notice right away that the yarn is much thinner. Even though it's the exact same brand, it's the exact same weight, it's the same label, everything is the same, but the thickness is different. I've noticed that many times, and I did a little digging around to see why is that the case. And what I discovered is that the yarn dyeing process has an effect on the yarn itself. The more dye that is needed for the yarn, the thinner it will be. And that's why when you have a lighter color or a natural color, it is going to be slightly thicker than a color that is very rich and deep, and it's going to be a little bit thinner because it has been processed more. I love finding out the reasons for the things that I notice when I'm crocheting. I wanted to pass on that information because I thought it was so interesting, and I've never known why sometimes a yarn is a little thicker and a little thinner than the other ones in the exact same yarn label, and now we know. As I've been on this journey to find the perfect amigurumi yarn, I've learned quite a bit about yarn and what makes it good for amigurumi. And these are the 5 different characteristics that I focus on when I'm testing these new yarns. The first is the fiber content. Acrylic is a fantastic yarn for amigurumi because it's affordable, it's washable, and it's easily available. However, I've been experimenting with cottons, cotton blends, wool blends, and even a little mohair. The next characteristic is the weight of the yarn. In the beginning, I only stuck to worsted weight yarns, which are a number 4, But recently I've been experimenting with thinner weight yarns, especially sport weight, and this one is a DK weight. I've even tried fingering weight yarns as well, which are very, very thin. Number 3 is texture. I've tried super smooth yarns like Yarn Art Jeans, which is a cotton blend, but I've also experimented a little bit with mohair silk blends like Rowan Kid Silk Haze to give my toys a super fuzzy effect. Number 4 is color. Color is one of the most important qualities that I'm looking for in the perfect amigurumi yarn. I need to have a lot of different beautiful colors to choose from, and the more, the better. And number 5 is budget. I've been experimenting with yarns at different price points. Some of my favorites have been extremely budget friendly, but I've also found some real gems in the moderately priced yarns as well. I've been using the Paintbox line of yarns for amigurumi for quite some time. When I first started crocheting toys, I was only using the Paintbox Cotton DK, which is a gorgeous yarn for amigurumi. And if you're able to use 100% cotton yarns, I highly recommend this one because it's very affordable. At full price, it's $3.75 for a 1.8 ounce skein, but you can get a much better price on sale at $2.63 for a skein of the Paintbox Cotton DK. And what's great is that this yarn comes in 71 beautiful colors, and it has this gorgeous matte finish that I just love. I've talked about it so many times here on my channel, but just in case you haven't heard, I don't use 100% cotton anymore for amigurumi because cotton is a less stretchy fiber and it can cause problems if you have any kind of hand tenderness, any kind of elbow soreness, or even in your shoulders. And because I was feeling a lot of soreness and pain in my hands and in my wrists from using 100% cotton, I decided to try the Paintbox Wool Mix Aran. This is a fabulous wool blend yarn that comes in 60 different colors. And it is quite a bit more expensive at $9.50 for a 3.5 ounce skein. But if you wait for the sales, you can pick it up for $6.65 per skein. And it is an Aran weight, which means it's slightly thicker than a worsted weight yarn. And all that means is that your toys are going to be a little more chunky, which I think is super cute. Based on my really positive experience with the Paintbox yarns, I decided that I wanted to try the Paintbox Simply DK, which is a 100% acrylic yarn. It comes in 75 beautiful colors. And full price, it's $4.75 for a 3.5 ounce skein, but you can pick it up for $3.33 per skein. And here are the characteristics that I was testing for. The first thing I was looking for was stitch consistency. I wanted to see if it was easy to maintain my tension. Did it split or snag at all? I was paying particular attention to see if I could get smooth, consistent stitches, which is essential to me for getting that polished look for my amigurumi toys. Number 2, I was evaluating the project as I was going along for the appearance. Was it creating the look that I had envisioned for my little astronaut? I was looking at how it held the stitch definition and how the colors looked together. Number 3, I was looking to see how soft the yarn felt in my hands. Amigurumi toys are often held and cuddle, so it is preferable to me to have a softer yarn so that if you want to hold and squeeze it, it feels nice in your hands. But I also wanted to see how did it feel as I'm working with it. It's one thing to have a nice soft amigurumi toy at the end, but we have to spend many hours working on these toys, and I want the yarn to feel good as I'm working with it. The fourth thing I'm looking for is the durability. How well is this yarn holding up as I'm working with it, as I am weaving in ends, as I am sewing on body parts, as I'm making a magic ring? We put our yarns through the ringer when we are making amigurumi toys. So the perfect amigurumi yarn for me has to be really strong. The fifth characteristic I was looking for was how well did the yarn work when I was changing colors. I wanted to see how well the yarn joins and how it weaves in. Neat color changes really do contribute to a more professional look with amigurumi. So let's talk about the pros, and there's a lot to like about the Paintbox Simply DK. First of all, the amount of colors that you can choose from with this yarn is a big pro in my book. The second pro is the price. You can get the Paintbox Simply DK for $3.33 for 3.5 ounces when it is on sale. And that comes out to 95 cents per ounce. And that really is a bargain. The third pro is the durability. This is a nice, strong yarn. It's not going to fall apart when you're sewing on those little arms or the head or the legs and you're pulling really hard. It's not going to break, because if you've ever had that happen before, that is not a good thing. It's not good when you are sewing on a body part and the yarn snaps in half. And in my opinion, that's one of the most important things when I'm looking for an amigurumi yarn. Now it's time to talk about the cons. And unfortunately, my cons list is a little bit longer than my pro list. I went into this test with really high hopes. Because I had worked with 2 other Paintbox yarn labels, I really thought that this was going to be the one. I really believed that in my heart. But let's go ahead and get into the cons so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. The first is stitch definition. This yarn does not create the stitch definition that I was looking for. My finished astronaut looks cute, but I prefer my toys to have a bit more stitch definition. And I'm okay if they're a little bit fuzzy, I don't mind that, but I like to be able to see those stitches. And while I think the astronaut is cute, I would have preferred to be able to see my stitches a little bit better. My second con is what I'm calling my stitches at work. Now, even though this toy doesn't have the stitch definition that I want, there's a more serious problem, and that is when I was working with this yarn, I had a difficult time seeing my stitches. And what I mean by that is particularly when I was making invisible decreases and when you're just going into the front loops of the 2 stitches that you are trying to decrease, I was having a hard time seeing the front loops of those stitches. Now, yes, I do wear glasses and sometimes I don't see the best, but I have a neck light on so that I'm very well lit, and I was still having a really hard time seeing the distinction between 2 stitches, and for me, that's a big problem. I've used a lot of 100% acrylic yarn, so it's not that. There's something else going on with this yarn that makes it difficult to be able to distinguish your stitches between one another when you're making nice, tight single crochets. So for that reason, this was a big no for me. The third con is how the yarn feels. Because Paintbox Simply DK is 100% acrylic, I was actually expecting it to be a little bit softer than it actually is. And while it doesn't feel bad, it didn't feel really nice in my hands. I'm a very tactile person, and it's important to me how the yarn feels when I'm working with it. And this one just wasn't doing it for me. The fourth con is the final look. And while I think the little astronaut turned out really cute, he really is an adorable little pattern, I don't like the way the final fabric turned out. It's not as crisp as I would like it to be. And while I do like that crisp definition in my stitches, I also love when a project has a little bit of a fuzzy halo. I like that look too, but this one fell somewhere in between, and somehow it just wasn't what I was expecting. So these are my final thoughts about the Paintbox Simply DK. This is not going to be the perfect amigurumi yarn for me. I think it is a very good yarn, but it's not a great yarn for me. And I will say these are my thoughts. They're definitely my opinion, my preferences. And while this may not be a yarn that I really love, it could be a great one for you. So I highly recommend experimenting for yourself, because each one of us will have our own likes and dislikes and our preferences. And after my testing experience, these are some of my best tips when you're looking for the perfect yarn for crocheting toys. My number one tip for that is to keep detailed notes. Make sure to record your observations during your testing process. Make sure to include the hook size, the colors you used, and any of the challenges you encountered. This will help you to remember what worked and what didn't work in the future. Another great tip would be to make a simple amigurumi test ball, and I have a full video for how to do that. And what you can do with that is wash and dry it to see if this is a yarn that is going to hold up in your washing machine and your dryer, if that's something that is important to you. Number 3 is to experiment and have fun. Don't be afraid to try different yarns and textures. Sometimes unexpected discoveries happen when you least think you're going to find them. And number 4, make sure to share your findings. Make sure to share your discoveries because it helps everyone out. One of my favorite things is testing new yarns for amigurumi, and while the Paintbox Simply DK didn't turn out to be the yarn that I was hoping it would be, I still learned a lot, and for that reason, it was a valuable experiment. Little Austin and I hope that you enjoyed today's video and that you have a great rest of your week. Stay safe and happy stitching.